Good afternoon. My name is Amy Cox, and I am the Director for the Career Readiness and Workforce Partnerships at the New York State Education Department. I am joined by Mary Beth Casey, the Director of Curriculum and Instruction, and Michael Lamastro, the Associate in Business Education and Marketing, Business and Marketing Education. My apologies, Michael. Thank you all for coming this afternoon for the public hearing for Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century, or Perkins 5, four-year state plan. Before I begin, I'd like to explain the guidelines for this hearing. First, this is not a technical assistance session. It is a venue for information dissemination and public input without immediate response to that input or questions. Questions and comments will be recorded and answered on the NYSED Office of Career and Technical Education's Perkins website in a questions and answers section. We will be providing a Perkins 5 overview this afternoon, after which those members of the audience who pre-registered to submit questions or comments will be called upon to speak. Each speaker has 5 minutes to provide their question or comment. If anyone in the audience who did not pre-register to speak would like to submit questions or comments, Tim Ott has some cards available. I'd ask you to get a card, fill out your question, and return it to Tim, and he will call you up after the presentation. Okay? Okay, so the Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act, or Perkins 5, is a reauthorization of the previous Perkins 4 Act. It is a continuation of federal funds to support the growth of CTE programs and the teaching of 21st century skills. 2019 through 2020 is our transition year from Perkins 4 to Perkins 5. And the first full year of implementation will be 2020-2021 program year. Perkins funding in New York State is based on a grant allocation, a formula grant allocation that is non-competitive. For this program year, New York State received $56,867,904. 85% of that funding goes to local secondary and post-secondary recipients, while the other 15% is split between state leadership activities and state plan administration. In New York State, with the exception of the Big 5 districts and some small city schools, most districts sign their allocation over to their local BOCES. In order to access these funds directly, a smaller school district must have 3 NYSED-approved CTE programs in 3 different national career clusters and generate a formula allocation of $15,000 or more. As this slide illustrates, the breakdown of Perkins funds in New York State supports secondary agencies, post-secondary agencies, 2 agencies serving incarcerated youth, and 11 secondary agencies serving adult learners. Reviewing our Perkins 5 timeline this past spring, we were able to create a transition plan for the state to work towards the new expectations of Perkins 5. A revised application was used by applicants for the 1920 school year, so they could begin to use funds for program evaluations, targeting special populations within their programs, professional development for their staff, and to increase work-based learning opportunities for students. The transition plan and local application were approved by the New York State Education Department's Board of Regents and USDOE in the spring of 2019. We then revised the performance targets that will be utilized beginning in the 2020-2021 school year. The secondary level performance targets align with New York's ESSA plan for 4-year graduation rate, English language arts proficiency, mathematics proficiency, and science proficiency. The post-secondary level targets were consolidated from 6 to 3 and include retention and placement, attainment of industry recognized credentials, and non-traditional enrollment. Our next step was then to draft the 4-year state plan, as well as a comprehensive local needs assessment template and guidance, and a local application with the support of our stakeholder groups. The draft state plan and its supporting documents were presented to the Board of Regents in November, and now we are in the public comment stages as we meet here tonight. Following these public hearings and the public comment period, we will process all of the comments and finalize these documents for submission to USDOE in April of 2020. So what is the Perkins 5 state plan? The 4-year plan is our roadmap for change. The plan identifies partners and directions for improving the delivery of CTE education for all Perkins funded recipients. Pardon me. The plan also specifies the activities and products that NYSED will develop to comply with federal law. As mentioned previously, the transition plan provided NYSED and the local recipients a chance to prepare for the changes in Perkins 5. The department also had a chance to work with stakeholders to develop our draft 4-year plan. During this time, our CTE office has worked closely with the Office of Teaching Initiatives on CTE teacher certification in regard to certification titles and how they align to the national career clusters. NYSED's website now provides detail about the acceptable industry-related credentials and work experience necessary for certification and the multiple pathways available towards certification. The CTE office has also worked with the Office of Information Reporting Services to revise the data reporting procedures. This work has been in consultation with the regional information centers so that this aligns with the new Perkins data reporting requirements while reducing the burden on the districts. A CTE advisory panel has also been created as a primary stakeholder group. This group of professionals from around the state is made up of representatives from both secondary and post-secondary agencies. They will convene for quarterly work sessions where they will advise NYSED on the implementation of the 4-year plan. Perkins 5 addresses 6 main goals for the use of funds by local recipients. These 6 goals are increasing employment opportunities for subgroups and special populations, preparation for high skill, high wage, or in-demand occupations, integrating rigorous and challenging academic and CT instruction that links secondary and post-secondary education, providing technical assistance that improves the quality of CTE faculty, teachers, counselors, and administrators, supporting partnerships between secondary and post-secondary institutions, local workforce boards, and business and industry, and providing individuals with opportunities and skills to keep the U.S. competitive. NYSED has outlined 4 main priorities within our state plan for implementation over the next 4 years, and these priorities align with the Perkins 5 goals as well. Our first priority is to increase access to high-quality CTE programs. Increasing access can look many different ways depending on the students, the region, the agency. We see this priority encompassing many activities such as informing all parents and students of CTE programs available within each district, having a clear agenda and expectations of each program offered and being able to explain the skills and knowledge that will be gained through enrollment in each program, listing technical endorsements, industry credentials, assessments, etc., that will be available to each student enrolled in that program, and reducing barriers to participation in traditional and non-traditional programs of study. The second priority is to support special populations, including students with disabilities and English language learners enrolled in CTE programs. Activities that could be funded may include having promotional materials available in other languages for parents and students, working with special education teachers and consultants to provide appropriate supports for students with disabilities as they complete the work and prepare for the assessments in their programs, incorporating IEP accommodations as needed and monitoring this process, or proposing modifications to IEPs in preparation for students to enter the CTE programs at the annual review meetings. Priority 3 is to improve our career development for all students in CTE programs. Recipients can utilize New York State Department of Labor data for their comprehensive local needs assessment, and also as they assist students researching career trends, skills required, and salary outlooks. Instructors can incorporate transferable and employability skills into all courses, as well as teach the technical and concrete skills required for their specific programs. Students should be conducting self-assessments and career assessments with the help of their counselors or instructors as well. Other areas to explore and or utilize for these activities would be social media platforms, work-based learning opportunities, and career and technical student organizations. The final priority for the next 4 years is to build regional collaboration amongst secondary and post-secondary education and business and industry partners. This collaboration will be guided by labor market needs, and the goal is to work with recipients to develop regional articulation agreements. This collaboration will hopefully reduce burdens to local agencies and to maximize the partnerships available. In order to receive Perkins 5 funds for the 2020-2021 program year, local applicants need to complete their comprehensive local needs assessment. NYSED has provided a template and guidance documents to assist in this process. This will provide a standardized, structured assessment of all NYSED-approved programs that are offered by each applicant. The template also ensures that applicants are using program-level student performance data to examine both strengths and gaps in access, equity, support, and outcome for students. Applicants will need to examine their program's alignment with local, regional, and state workforce needs, and again, identify where gaps may exist and need improvement. The comprehensive assessment will then guide their application for Perkins funding. In line with our priority for collaboration and the Perkins goal of partnerships, the comprehensive local needs assessment must be completed with collaboration between the applicant and their identified stakeholder groups listed on the slide. The evaluation process will drive the local application so that funding is targeted towards needs identified using data and will strengthen CTE programs for local recipients. After conducting these public hearings, we will again meet with our CTE advisory panel in January to analyze all of the public feedback we gather from stakeholders. Those recommendations will be considered as we finalize the state plan for submission to the Board of Regents in February, and then submit to the Governor's office before the final submission to USDOE in April 2020. Links to our other hearings, as well as the Perkins related materials, can be found on NYSED's Career and Technical Education page, as well as our CTE Technical Assistance Center's webpage. And we welcome your feedback and comments on the Perkins State Plan, and you can submit those via email to the box shown here, the CTE Perkins Plan at nysed.gov. Please include public hearing in the comment line of your submission. Thank you. So at this time, I'm not sure.
We've had one person request to speak. He's arrived, Dave Armstead.
Okay, fantastic.
Dave, he's right up to the microphone. That's great. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to thanks for the opportunity. Today I'm going to be speaking on behalf of the New York State Association for Career and Technical Education. I'll refer to it as NYSACTE in my comments, as well as being an officer and founder of the New York State Trade and Technical Teachers Association. I'd like to pose a few questions and make a few remarks regarding the guidance that's been put forth by SED. First of all, in step one, the question was what is the role of the LACs with regard to the compilation and analysis of program data? So that was a question that was posed by the various groups that are under the umbrella of NISACD.
Mm-hmm.
And so these questions come from a compilation of all the input from all the organizations that are under the umbrella of NISACD. The second question was if the labor market trends determine in a region that there is a need for a program, does the Perkins funding support the development of programs? I think that's pretty obvious, but that was the question. In step three, as we begin to analyze the labor market information and student performance in particular, CTE programs typically that are providing services for the component districts through the BOCES service providing network typically work with 11th and 12th graders. And most of those students have already taken and or are taking the Regents exams in math, ELA, and science. So the question is, we have concerns that because we'll have a minimal impact on those outcomes for those students, they wondered if it was appropriate, we wonder if it's appropriate, if we hold the BOCES CTE programs accountable for academic proficiencies that we have very little to do with. Although we do integrate our academics, as you well know, I don't believe that the math and the science in particular are already behind many of the students that we serve. And ELA certainly is in 11th grade, but sometimes the students take that earlier. In step four, analyzing the program performance, the elements of a CDOS credential are 216 hours of CTE coursework, with 54 hours of that being work-based learning, of course, and in addition to a completion of the employability profile. Whereas in a CTE program, that's a 2-year continuum for students at 11th, 12th grade, that CTE program of study encompasses over 900 hours of work-based learning as well as CTE content. It also requires the students challenge and pass an industry assessment. And we believe that the CDOS credential and the successful completion of a New York State CTE approved program is not equivalent to a 4+1 or a completion of a CTE with a technical endorsement. A little side note from me, there's a little confusion in the field about what a CTE credential actually, a CDOS credential actually is. The CDOS credential was defined as an outcome for students with disabilities and or others, but it was not a high school completion. I believe that the department is speaking about a CTE pathways outcome, which does include passing of 4 Regents and then completion of CTE course of study at that level with work-based learning. So just a point of clarification maybe would be appropriate there. We know that these outcomes are really aligned with ESSA indicators, which we believe indicate more rigorous CTE outcomes based on program participation in improved programs. In step 5, analyze the progress towards implementing improved programs. We believe this is an excellent requirement of the 4-year plan, and we support it wholeheartedly. In step 6 of the plan, and certainly the CLNA evaluation, analyze the process for recruitment and retention. We believe that the professional development is critical for program enhancement, teacher recruitment, classroom instructional practices, and student performance. What role would the LAC engage in terms of recruiting, and what are the expectations for the LACs to recruit teachers, to support the recruitment of teachers. And in step 7, analyze the access and equity and NYSED approved programs. It's important that we understand that this has to include equity for all students. When we look at the percentage of students with disabilities that participate in programs in the BOCES centers, it's more than double what the percentage of students with disabilities are from the sending districts. When you look at the number of students, the percentage of students that are B or better students, for example, in the districts, and you look at the percentage of B and better students that are in the BOCES centers, very, very different, very inequitable. So we know that we're trying to work to improve the quality of programs and enhance the outcomes for students with disabilities. And we just would like to recognize that we ensure that all students are considered in the state planning, and that would include K through 12. So once again, I thank you all for the opportunity to pose a few questions from NYSACD, and I look forward to continuing to work with you on the progress of the Perkins 5 this year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else care to submit comments or questions?